Now, I hate to tell you, I told you so. Well, before we get into that, what's going on, Madden Universe? Relli843 here from MaddenUniverse.com. And EA just dropped their blog on everything that's been updated as far as mechanics and the community requests that were addressed. Now, all of these things were things that I went over. Several other people who were at EA Play or have touched the game have talked to y'all about. But for some reason, no one wants to listen. But it's okay, because now we actually have the blog. And while this blog doesn't go too crazy in depth, it's enough to let you know what's coming. Now, nobody wanted to believe anything when I was telling them, but here we go. Let's go ahead and get into it. Off-ball injuries. This applies to simulation mode, okay? Players not directly involved in a tackle can be injured. Offensive, defensive linemen, things like that. You're going to see ACL stuff, things like that. That's not really something we're going to get into because that's not really my side of things. But let's just keep going because it's really going to start getting good. Ball hawk. Okay. The word ball hawk is still in the game. However, you can't just hold Y, triangle, whichever system you're on, and run around the field like a chicken with your head cut off and expect to get interceptions. It's not working that way no more. It's timing based. Like I said before. And if you hold the button too long, you receive a penalty that reduces your chance of making the catch. You might not even get an animation. One thing I didn't know that this told me is that quarterbacks can use pump fake to mess up the ball hawk. So in other words, if you're just trying to time it with as soon as you see the arm go forward, you can sit there and hold Y and it could completely mess you up. Which is something that in the past, pump fake really hasn't been something that I use or other people. I'm not sure if I'll even use it this year. I'm just saying it's something that's there. Hit stick. Guys, I gotta say, I'm so happy they took that friggin' X button away from people. It's a crutch. It was such a crutch. Also, what's not said in their blog is that Heat Seeker is not tied to hit stick anymore, which is great. You now have to use the good old right stick, up or down. Down for low hit, up for high hit. If you mistime it, you have a bad angle, anything like that, you're probably going to miss. If they hit you with a ball carrier move, a spin, juke, whatever, and you try to hit stick, you got a good chance of being juked out. You know what I'm saying? If you don't time it correctly, it's much harder to do. The user control is harder. So that increases the skill gap, which we've been screaming about for the past couple years. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people who think they have good stick that got good stick when these helpers came into the game, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of people are going to find out real quick they're not very good stick-wise. And it's something that you're going to need to work on. Ball carrier special moves. Every one of the carrier special moves has been updated for Madden 18. According to their blog, the moves are faster and more efficient. They're also less punitive in terms of fumble chances. And most importantly, user-controlled players on defense can now be faked out as effectively as AI-controlled players, especially attempting to hit stick, which is what I just said when we were talking about hit sticking in Madden 18. Now, I will say this. Each running back was better with different moves. You're not going to have a Marshawn Lynch or a lower person in agility pulling off the spin moves like crazy. Devontae Freeman felt very fluid with a lot of the moves at EA Play. That build was 3 weeks old at the time of it, and that was almost 2 months ago now. So I'm sure that there's been a lot of fine-tuning since then as well. Dropped interceptions. Now, if you're a sim player, you still have the random dice roll of dropping a pick. However, one of the biggest complaints the competitive community has had, myself included, is dropping wide open interceptions. It drives me crazy. It drives a lot of people crazy. There's no reason why, if I'm in perfect position, you make a terrible read and throw it right at my face, I should be dropping the ball. Now, however, you will still see some drops. If you're running around with trying to pick the ball off with James Harrison, for example, who we all know probably has bricks for hands in the game, you may drop some. But there's a certain threshold. I don't know exactly what the number is. I remember at EA Play them saying something around 70, that you were pretty much going to catch it every time if you were open. Now, when they say open, that means you don't have a lot of traffic around you, a bunch of bodies in one spot. Of course, your chance catches go down as far as catching traffic is concerned, and that's fine with me. Now, biggest complaint from last year from a lot of people was the swerve. Was it annoying? Yeah, to some degree. Not as bad as some of the things that we've seen in the past, but it was annoying. Basically what would happen was a canned animation where the defender would lock in with the receiver and follow him in place. This year, that does not happen. And I can confirm that. We tried it. Doesn't work. They're completely separate from each other. The defender's playing the ball effectively. User is really coming into it. Now, curl to flat zones, in other words, purples, they play a lot better. In the past, they would drop down on flats and not stay back into their position, allowing corners to get behind them, different things like that. Purples are much better this year. I didn't know why. I just knew they fixed them. But they actually told you why. And they implemented a rule called no cover zone, where underneath defenders won't jump routes 5 yards and under. So if you have a purple on the field and they just throw a little baby out or a flat route, or they have a baby out or a flat route over there, they're not just going to jump down and take that over the corner route that's going behind him. So that's great. They fixed fumble recoveries, which has been a legacy issue. It's been a problem for years. With the piles in, especially when they added in the ball physics, the ball would just bounce around. People wouldn't pick the ball up. They paid a lot of attention to that as far as the ability to grab the ball when it gets close to your hands, things like that. Now, user-controlled linebackers. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a touchy subject. Their exact wording is, users controlling a linebacker were able to take away most routes over the middle of the field in the past. We made some alterations to defender run curves and turn rates to ensure that only elite defenders are capable of making these types of plays. Lower rated defenders will not be able to take away the middle of the field as effectively. Now, that's great as far as ratings playing into that. I will go ahead and let you know now that even with the highest rated player, you're not going to be able to take a seam up the field 10 yards and then turn around immediately and cut the drag. Pick off a throw to a drag. You can't just make a 180-degree turn just like that. That just doesn't happen from what I've seen. Unless something has changed in the past month, I don't see that happening. However, movement in general because of frostbite is a lot better, so you can still move around. It's just going to take a little getting used to. You might see more people using a safety for their user this year just because of the agility levels, things like that. Rack drops. Oh my God, last year with all these drops. That was one of the biggest issues last year, was just drop passes. And they acknowledge it. It was something to do with online and development, because offline you didn't see those drops as often. Apparently their QA team has spent countless hours testing online to ensure that the outcomes happen as to make sure that the outcomes are delivered expectedly. Hard flats. Now, we all know they did not take away table routes, flat routes, any of that from the running back in the past year, especially in Madden 17. It was so bad. You could throw a table route past anything unless you manned it up. The community stated they wanted hard flats to play the flats more aggressively. So we did some work on their logic so they do a better job of reading the route progression and taking away throws to the flats. That's music to my ears, man. I love that. AI defenders swat versus interception. This is a big thing from the competitive side of things. You have a bad read made. Your AI defender is in perfect position to make a catch, and you're using someone that might be behind him in position to make the catch, but the AI defender would jump in front of you and just swat it down. Okay, so now if he's just wide open in front of everything and he runs in front of it, instead of running in front and swatting it down and you being pissed because you were in position to make the interception yourself, the AI will actually go for the interception if they have an open read on the ball. Now, a big thing that we talked about after EA Play, directional control of rat catches. Essentially, you know, for the past few years, even before rat catching came into the game, you catch a ball near the sidelines and you just end up out of bounds. There's nothing you could do about it. Now you can actually steer out of the catch. So say the ball is thrown to the sideline and you want to make the catch and turn upfield. When you make the catch, you press X for the rack, and you hold up or whichever direction you want to turn out of that catch in the to exit the rack animation, essentially. And that'll turn you upfield to keep you from going out of bounds. Now, and it's very simple. The other thing too, with rack catches was the drops as far as after they've already made the catch, then someone comes and like barely touches them and the ball just pops out. You won't see as much of that anymore. Size and weight factors. Something I was asked a lot about, but it's not something that I could just see playing in the game for 2 days. You know, like it's not something that I was just testing at EA Play. That's not the place for that. The formula used to determine outcomes of hit sticks and impact blocks will now use weight and momentum of the players involved in the interaction. You will see far less instances of smaller players successfully landing a hit stick on bigger ball carriers or wide receivers impact blocking bigger linebackers, especially when not moving with enough speed to make a hit. Now, that doesn't mean, if you read it correctly, that does not mean that you just have no chance of getting a crackback block or an impact block from a wide receiver. Of course, if a linebacker is just standing still and not looking and he gets ear-holed, he's going to get impact blocked. But there's no more of that linebacker running after the running back full speed and a wide receiver just knocking him stupid. I mean, you got 210 pounds versus 260 pounds and a big strength difference. You know what I mean? And the momentum is just different. Like it uses the momentum. You got overtime and play now games. In other words, if you're offline, it uses the playoff overtime rules instead of regular season overtime rules. In other words, there won't be a tie. Lower rated QB accuracy. Now I want to speak on this because it says lower rated QBs being too accurate have been addressed with a new inaccuracy system. Expect to see more inaccurate throws from lower rated QBs, especially on simulation play style. These inaccurate passes have new placement modeling, ensuring you will see a wider variety in how throws are missed. Now, I know a lot of you may have read especially on simulation. That doesn't mean you can go get a bum at quarterback and just make every single throw on competitive mode. Because I definitely seen a difference between different quarterbacks when I was playing the game. And watching others play the game as well on competitive mode. Now, this is something that wasn't known to everybody. I knew about this, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know if they were holding on and didn't want to say it. Defense in practice mode. When a user is on defense in practice, the AI will not snap the ball if it senses a user making defensive adjustments. This gives plenty of time to practice exotic defensive setups without having to be worried about the AI quick hiking him. Round of applause, EA. We needed that. Because you had to go in there with 2 controllers. I mean, still now I probably will, because I'm going to set up different route combos as well. But those of you who didn't want to, that's fine too. You can do it both ways, because now you can have the CPU making reads while you're playing defense. Once you've and then you can also go in with 2 controllers and set up an offensive play and see how to lock it down. Now, the one thing I wish they had added was breaking the huddle from in practice mode, because sometimes they don't line up the same and it causes certain things that you find in practice mode not to work in a game. That's why a lot of us try to look for things in play now, or we'll test something in practice mode. It works in practice mode. Then we go and play now with 2 controllers to see if it still works. But you know, that could come in the future. Another thing I'd like to see is like the ability to practice 2-minute situations, situational practice, things like that. But this is a great thing for them to add. I like that. Now, slower players catching faster players. Now, this is something I also spoke on right after EA Play. Not only on Periscope, but also on different podcasts. The game in the past would create scenarios where ball carriers on breakaway runs would be caught from behind by defenders with lower speed. We were able to solve this long-standing legacy issues with some key changes to defensive run curves and stamina. That's great. To tack onto that as well, you have full speed of your quarterback behind the pocket as well, which is something that, right from the snap, as soon as you get the ball, if you press right trigger and try to run, you're going to get his full speed along with his acceleration. You know, you're not going to like pause for a couple seconds to start having a seizure or any of that craziness. You can move around. Also, the suction animations on tackles, I didn't see one. And I think that part has a lot to do with Frostbite. But I could be wrong on that. But I think it's because of Frostbite. Position-specific defensive hot routes. Now, people were going mad on Twitter because they heard you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. And I tried to tell people to calm down. There's actually more. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go over this. If a safety is subbed in via formation package or formation sub to an outside cornerback position, he will get the outside cornerback hot route set. Okay? If by alignment an outside cornerback was to align inside over a slot receiver, he is considered a slot DB. So in other words, it's position based by where you are on the field, not, oh, he's a strong safety, so he automatically has these set of hot routes. All right, so an outside DB, so your wide corners. You can hot route to an outside deep third, which is basically a cover 3 outside deep zone, a cloud flat, a hard flat, soft squat, man coverage, blitz, deep half zone, which is a cover 2 invert type zone, outside quarter deep zone, which is cover 4 deep. A lot of people hear the word quarters and they think that it means the formation, which it can in certain instances. But when you say to play quarters coverage in order to stop the run, we're talking about cover 4, not the formation. So I just wanted to clear that up. So that's outside DBs. Slot defensive backs. You can play a seam flat, which is the purple looking zone that matches, essentially. A vertical hook, a hard flat, a curl flat, which is a purple, man coverage, quarterback spy, blitz, and bluff blitz. Your deep half safety. So in other words, if you have 2 deep safeties, you can play a deep half zone, which is a cover 2 deep zone. You can play a hook curl. You can play an inside third, which is a deep third, cover 3 deep zone for the deep safety, like deep middle of the field. You can play a curl flat. You can play man. You can blitz him. You can spy him. Or you can play an inside quarter zone, which would be a cover 4 deep zone. Basically, he'd be playing whichever side he's on, he'd be playing that quarter of the field. A deep middle safety. So in other words, say one of your safeties come down and you've only got one high, single high. You can put him in a deep third, which is a cover 3 deep zone, a mid read zone, an outside third deep zone left, a deep half left, man coverage, blitz, outside third deep zone right, or deep half right. So there's a lot you can do with this, you know. And here's where we get to where everybody was freaking out, okay? Inside linebackers, they can play middle deep thirds, they can play middle reads, hook curls, curl flats, man coverage, blitz, QB spy, or bluff blitz. Notice how it said curl flat. It did not say hard flat. That says inside linebacker. So they took away the ability to put hard flats from inside linebackers. Okay, so now let's get to this. Outside linebacker from a 4-man D-line. DE. Seam flat. Vertical hook. Hard flat. Curl flat. Man coverage. Blitz. Spy. Bluff blitz. You heard that right. Hard flat. Seam flat. Curl flat. All 3. Chill. That's all I'm going to say. Defensive tackles and 3-man line. You play a vertical hook left, vertical hook right, hook curl left, hook curl right, man coverage, blitz, QB spy, bluff blitz. Now, what I will tell you is manning up defensive linemen, you cannot man up any defensive lineman, regardless of whether it's 3-4 or 4-3, on outside receivers anymore. You can only do that on halfbacks and tight ends, unless something has changed, which I highly doubt in that area. But guys, everything that I've seen playing the game, this blog really actually breaks it down, and it's true. It's not just, you know, a bunch of bull, you know what I'm saying, that they just threw out there, yo. Like, this is why when all y'all was sitting there telling me, oh, well, you just kissing up the EA. No, I actually seen this stuff. There's certain things in the game I don't like little things. QB sneak, the way they handled that. I don't know if they decided that the fix that they used at EA Play is what they're going to go with or not. But a lot of us didn't like that. It was kind of like a random dice roll. Either he would just fall flat on his face and flop like a fish, or he'd get the yard. It wasn't like, you know, you had to do something to stop it. It was kind of random. So that's one thing I didn't like, you know, like. And when the game comes out, if there's things that I see different from what I saw there, I'll let it be known, especially if it's something I don't like. But yeah, man, make sure you click the link below to check out what I think of this in blog format. I'm also going to have the link to EA's blog. All right, y'all. MaddenUniverse.com, Relli843. Madden 18 is going to be hell. I'm telling y'all now. Full time. I seen all y'all sending subs. Y'all know who y'all are. And when I say subs, for those of you who don't know, I mean subliminal little shots without saying my name. I see you. I see you.